Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast in which we get to the heart of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Gerald Christopher, relaxing waterfall porter.
It's so tranquil. You make it sound so peaceful here in the Temple of Doom. It's so nice.
I'm in the cistern underneath where they gather the rainwater and they have to store it somewhere.
For the lava,
Hopefully it's not like the Basilica Cistern in Istanbul where you go down and they got that Medusa head.
Oh, I did that.
Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it?
That was amazing. It was the old ancient Roman cistern down there.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
But that's not
Pete.
where you are now.
God, see, that's what I talked to Pete about. Your gummy worms and nipples.
Those are not gummy worms, Jerry. I'm sorry. I've been wanting to tell you this all these years. And now in minute 62, we finally get to the truth. All right, speaking of minute 62, this minute of this movie begins with Willie asking Indy if he's ever seen anything like this before, and it ends with a cage being lowered before a terrified prisoner.
Well, I like this, right, very close to the beginning, we get this guy hitting this giant kettle drum. Or this giant drum. I don't know if it's a kettle drum. But it reminds me a lot of 1984 because it sounds like he's playing that same opening notes of the ABC Olympics theme song.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Like it sounds almost
That's
exactly
funny.
like it. And ironically, not the John Williams version that was composed that same year.
Right.
Well, what's interesting is you use the term kettle drum, and that's actually what the sound is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a timpani.
Okay.
Like when he does the roll, it's actually a timpani or kettle drum. But, I was looking at that going, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's a kettle drum or not, if it would sound like that. But it would be pretty close. It would be pretty close. The kettle drums, they have like a copper, a big copper shell that resonates and is really warm. And I don't know. I haven't examined the Temple of Doom drums, but they're probably made of some hardwood or something, and that sort of, dried human skin isn't going to resonate as much as, some of the more, modern, what am I doing? This is...
Well, I was going to say, could it be called
Yeah.
a kettle drum because they boil the dead bodies in a kettle to get the skin loose and get it off?
That's disgusting.
It is.
Yeah, it's like, or for them, maybe it's a cauldron drum.
Yeah.
Yeah, a cauldron drum. No,
I'm picturing
but it would,
Bugs Bunny just hanging out in the big
That's
pot.
pretty good. It probably wouldn't be as bouncy and buoyant, but it would be pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
Well, it depend on the personality of the drum head.
it's true.
Yeah, if he died anxious or if he died happy or yeah.
Like that could be Joe and Mo Googly-eyed because they seem very like buoyant and happy and whimsical.
Sure.
Whimsical. Well, this is a question for you, Tom.
Oh, thank God.
Gummy worms.
I'm wondering. So Kali is a woman.
Yes.
So does that Kali statue look female?
When I was a kid and I saw this, I did not get that she was female, and then I read it later. I was like, oh, maybe. I guess I could sort of. I don't know. But yeah, no, I don't think there's anything suggesting that she's female. Well,
She does have a skirt made of arms.
Right.
Yeah.
Like my mom.
Yeah.
Hey, we see Mola Ram for the first time.
Yeah.
We do.
He shows up.
I was gonna say, second 41 is one of my absolute favorite moments of this entire movie. First of all, we see Mola Ram up close, as you said, and he's sporting the ceremonial garb, and his headdress is that adorable little shrunken head.
It's like an adorable little shrunken Gene Simmons head.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm wondering, it's like that little head on the headdress. Like, I have so many questions about that little head.
Yeah.
First of all, is that its God-given size?
Yeah,
Look-
see, it doesn't look like what you see in like National Geographic as a shrunken head. It doesn't look like, or even Beetlejuice or something. It doesn't look like a shrunken head. It looks like a small head
And so I was wondering,
with a
well, maybe
huge
that was
Cupid
just,
doll wig.
Yeah, that's just its God-given size. But I was thought, well, maybe Mola Ram actually, maybe he actually shrank the head. But or I thought, if it was its normal size, maybe the head's growth was just truncated. Kind of like, or his growth was truncated like on one of those bonsai trees. You know what I mean? Where it's like an actual tree size, but they kind of like foot bind it, and so it never really grows up into a big tree.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably exactly what happened.
But then I thought, well, maybe he boiled it like the shrunken heads. But I actually think that it's a curio that he bought separately at a pawn shop. Because I believe shrunken heads come from Ecuador and Peru. And I guess it's possible that the Temple of Doom could have satellite churches there.
Oh, sure. Exchange programs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
They send missionaries.
Yeah.
So that's
Delicious
it. Maybe.
missionaries.
And Sully was talking yesterday about how huge that one skull is underneath, in between Kali's legs. And I thought, well, now we have a little skull here.
Yeah, it's so terrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
And Pete, you mentioned, I mean, it has this luxurious bloom of hair.
Oh yeah,
And
then, like
it
the
has-
tongue.
Yeah, and it has this incredible frozen countenance. And so
Yeah.
I wondered, like, did that person die in this mid-hiss?
Well, it's pretty crazy because this is once again something that looks crazy that is probably like the most religiously accurate part of the movie.
God, really?
Kali was often represented with her tongue sticking out because that was her sign that she had relaxed from her rage after Shiva calmed her down on the battlefield. Because she was going to destroy all humankind, and Shiva calmed her down, and the sign that she was calmed down was that she stuck out her tongue.
Like a dog.
And so she's represented here with that. And then the water buffalo horns that he's wearing, Yama, the Hindu god of death, is often said to ride the water buffalo. So I think this is another good,
weird.
like they got another piece of symbolism pretty well right.
But would a shrunken head like that, even if it was accurately depicting, things from Kali, would it look like somebody just ripped it off a doll and glued it on there? That's my beef with it.
I don't know. Well, I'm wondering, how did he build the headdress? Was it like, all right, well, I'm going to start with the water buffalo, and then I need okay, we don't really have shrunken heads in this part of the world, but I know I can get them, like, if I go online or...
Yeah, but he's got to get like the hot glue gun out. He's got to get...
Yeah, exactly.
And, I mean, speaking of the big water buffalo, I mean, that doesn't work. That skull does not work. That's clearly not an actual skull. Because, I mean, like, the jaw is like, it's all one piece. The jaw isn't like its own separate piece or anything. And sure, they split it open, I guess, to make a head. But it's fakey. I don't...
Well, he's also got this necklace on that they look like fingers, but I guess they're both. There's some kind. Are they teeth?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. I can't get past anything on this minute because of the little shrunken guy.
It is hard to think about anything
And every
else.
time I'm looking at Mola Ram, he's supposed to look sinister and menacing and commanding.
Yeah.
And that guy, I look about 2 inches above his eyes.
Well, if you
I
pause it
can't
at
stop
second, if you pause it around second 42, Mola Ram's looking up and the head's looking down. It looks like they're having a conversation with each other. Like, it's hilarious.
Like Master Blaster.
You're right. You're absolutely. This is supposed to be.
Oh my God.
And he's kind of looking up like, "Say it again, I dare you."
Sad-eyed. We see the Maharaja here. There's the spooky kid close up with the Maharaja. And when I saw him, I had to go back to like even the previous minute, like 3 times before I found him like in the space. Like I didn't know where he as a kid watching this, I didn't know where he was in the temple. I thought he was like next to him or something, or somewhere on the the dais or whatever. But he's like, you see him. You pointed him out last minute that he's like in sort of the center of the the center aisle of the congregation, basically. But it's weird. Like they didn't do much to like place him in space. You know, I kind of lost him in there.
Well, and I wondered that because I never noticed that before. And all the other congregants are swaying back and forth on all fours. Mm-hmm. But the Maharaja is seated on a carpet, and he's the only one. And I'm wondering, is this ceremony specifically dedicated to the Maharaja? Like, is this his baptism? You know?
Weird.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Like, you know, how long has he been a parishioner? And you're thinking, well, maybe just like 10 minutes.
Right. Well,
Maybe
I mean,
this is his induction. This is his induction ceremony. And if you think back to dinner, he actually said maybe he wasn't lying. He said, "I've heard these stories about the thuggy and all the terrible things."
Kid's never gonna live that down.
No, he's
that poor
not.
guy.
Maybe he was telling the truth. And then, like, you know, while Indy's eating the apple, like, he got kidnapped and had, you know, poured Kali blood down his throat. And now maybe this ceremony was called, like, as a last-second audible. Like, hey, we got the Maharaja. Everybody assemble. Everybody get the drums out.
Although, if you take into consideration the cut scene that Pete told us about, where he and Shorty get into a fight and his eyes start glowing and stuff, that was, like, right after dinner, wasn't it?
That's true.
So, like,
That's true.
I always took it that this has been going on for a while, that everyone's been in cahoots and under the thrall of Malaram for a while.
It dawned on me, though, because he is, as far as the congregants are concerned, he's the focal point of attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he's the Maharaja.
But
like I get what you're saying, but I wonder if that would always be the case no matter what was going on. Like if it was Easter, or if it was just Tuesday. Yeah. You know, he's the Maharaja, so he just sits and holds his burrito. What is that? What is he holding? It's like a wrapped up tinfoil burrito. Looks delicious.
Yeah, I know. I'm starving.
Now wait, Pete and Jer, this goes to both of you because we're all in this together. Am I insane? We joked about this earlier. I think when we did the preview episode before we started Temple of Doom. Am I hearing the carbon freezing chamber when all that steam comes up around Molaram's head in like the very next shot after you see the Maharaja? Do I hear the and like all that stuff and like all that apparatus sounds from the carbon freezing chamber? Because I swear to God I am.
Yeah, it does sound a lot like it.
You could let me hold on. I'm gonna check.
We're gonna pause because I want some. I don't know if I'm just making myself hear it.
What second are we talking?
It's like I want to say it is right after the shot of the Maharaja.
It's like 41, second 41.
Is it? Are you hearing it there?
Yeah.
Oh, you are. Okay.
Oh, that whip thing that goes whoosh.
No, you hear like it's the sound that you love, Jerry, from Empire, where the kind of
that thing that goes
that comes and grabs the thing and stuff, the kind of motorized sound.
That thing that goes yeah.
The thing that goes
I don't hear it.
Oh,
I
really?
thought you were just talking about the steam. I don't know if I heard that.
Oh, I mean it is the steam, but it's like the same like sounds and mechanized business. Like in the background of the steam. All right, I just listened back to my clip, and I'm not hearing it, but I swear to God I was hearing it.
Though.
Maybe it's but it could be on the Blu-ray. I was watching it on the Blu-ray when I was hearing about it.
Special
By the way,
edition.
I like maybe it is, that's almost what I'm thinking. Like maybe for fun, let's steam in a Lucas movie. Let's put some carbon freezing chamber music or sounds in there. But I should say, I started off this whole thing by complaining, like back at the beginning of Raiders, complaining about the Blu-ray of Raiders, which I stand by, but the Blu-ray of Temple of Doom looks really good. So there, run out and buy it.
Maybe it's your DVD player. Maybe it's going like.
I'm straining. I'm trying to spin this disc as fast as I can.
Well, I've got a question about. I've got another use for these skins they've got hanging up. The flapestries. I love that word, by the way, Jerry.
I'm really proud of
yeah,
that.
I think so.
I'm just glad you like it, Pete.
Wait, I like it too.
No, I'm glad you like it too, gummy worm.
How do you get to gummy worms?
I don't know.
So we've got these flapestries hanging up on both sides. And as somebody who is, within the last year and a half really gotten into podcasting, I'm wondering if they are like a homemade way to dampen the sound in this cave. Because it's kind of like hanging a blanket up on your wall or trying to,
Yeah.
get kind of, because caves have really crazy acoustics. And, like there's a whole branch of archaeology where they use sound in caves to try to locate prehistoric cave paintings and stuff.
Oh,
And
cool.
so the sound in this cave would probably be just crazy nuts.
Yeah.
So maybe those
Yeah.
flapestries are like sort of sound dampening flapestries.
And they also don't want to wake up the people in the palace, like 20 yards away.
Yeah, it's like soundproofing. Because
Yeah.
the orchestra pit is in a really weird location. Like I guess if it were in the actual orchestra pit, they would all be lava toasted. But they're like
Well-
way up at the top, and the sound's going to bounce like all around those elephant tusks and the.
But that's what's kind of strange. If you were building the room and you're like, if I hit the drums and the cricket shakers, it's going to reverberate off the back wall and fill the cavern.
So maybe the guy just shakes the cricket shaker once, and that constant cricket shaking you hear is just the echo like bouncing off all the walls.
Could be.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And that's really funny. The flapestries are just there as like a kind of like a nice deadener. Pardon the pun. All right. You have me worried there, Pete. I didn't know where you're going. You're like, I've been thinking a lot about flapestries, and I've been really getting into.
Just flaying people.
Yeah.
It's my new thing.
Well,
I did talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I did talk about this. Looks like Jabba's palace with the rectangular dais and the trap door. The guy that hits the big drum looks a lot like Malakili, the Rancor keeper.
He
So I
kinda
think the
does.
dream is still going.
He's not crying yet, though.
We see the sacrifice guy who's wearing the lei here. They
Yeah.
pull him out, and I mean, does he know what's in store for him, or was he just plucked off some Carnival cruise ship? Like, is he one of the congregants, or is he like one of the lucky ones? Like you've been chosen as we're gonna rip your heart out.
Well,
That
I
is a
think
good
because
question.
because of the lei, I'm going to say he's a chosen one, because in India, flower garlands are a sign of honor and respect. Like if someone's getting married, they're given to the bride in the wedding ceremony, or if you have a visiting dignitary, it's a sign of honor. So I think they're honoring him. This is a sign that they're honoring him, getting to be a sacrifice to Kali.
But do you think
does
he was?
that-
Yeah, he was like.
I don't know if
back in
he
the-
feels that way, but I think they
No,
feel
clearly
that way.
not. Yeah, he's got issues with this. He doesn't.
He's like back in the sacristy, and they put him on. They put him. He's like, "Oh, this is gonna be great. Yeah, where are we going?"
Oh, thanks for the flowers.
Yeah.
But yeah, does that mean that was he plucked from town, or is he picked out of the congregation, or I don't know. It's hard
Does
to
it
say.
like? Does he know all those people?
Yeah.
Jim?
Was he at dinner?
Or was he the last prime minister? Like maybe he was the prime minister yesterday. This was his punishment. They got like that's
Yeah.
Chatterlal's just been prime minister for a day.
Could be.
Meh. He certainly has a chip on his shoulder for a day.
Hey, speaking of, just to get back to the Maharaja for 1 second, are we supposed to be at all surprised that he's there? That he's just there? That he's there and part of this whole thing? You know what I keep coming back to? Why does why do the screenwriters have the shaman say back in the village that there is evil coming from Pankot Palace, or saying anything to tie it to the Maharaja, because that confuses everything that comes later. Like
Yeah.
we meet Chatterlal, and we're like, oh, he seems like a nice guy, and Indy doesn't seem suspicious of him at first or anything. And then he's being a jerk to him at dinner. He's like, saying, hey, you stole a rock, didn't you? I can tell you stole a rock. And then, the Maharaj is there, but there's no, even when the Maharaja shows up at dinner, there's no oh, that's the one the shaman was talking about. He's probably evil. He's the darkness coming from the. Yeah, it's just weird that they plant that and do nothing with it until they reveal this, which is not a reveal because you already heard about it. Like it's not, none of it pays off in the right way. It seems like.
Look, this whole thing just turned like it just went left. We're having good times about Carnival cruise ships and leis and no, it's true
Burritos.
because and Tommy, you had to bring that up, and it's actually sad bell time.
I'm sorry. Well, there we go. We're prepared.
The Maharaja makes no sense, and it's shallow and empty, and you don't know what he's doing. And when you see him at dinner, you're like, he's neither the face of, he's not the face of evil,
Right.
Nor is he the face of like, a good guy or welcome. And then when they put him down there and you're like, so a 12-year-old kind of snotty kid is running or he's in on it?
Yeah.
I don't.
It almost doesn't, if he's just in on it, if he's like, being controlled by Mola Ram, it almost doesn't make any difference in a way or something.
Yeah.
It's not like.
Is he any different than any of the other kids who are getting whipped and beaten and being looking for the other Shankara stones in the mine? Because you assume if he's in on it, I guess Mola Ram must have gotten to him and made him drink the Kali blood.
But why do we assume that Mola Ram made him do it? Like, how do we know that he wasn't in on it first? That he wasn't the first guy that drank the Kali blood, and then he's like, he gave some to Mola Ram, and he's like the puppet master. We just don't see him that way because he's this little kid.
Well, I'm not getting too far ahead, but I think, maybe later on his arc takes a different turn, or he.
Well, it's true, but nobody
Yeah.
burns Mola Ram later. So I mean,
look. So if Mola Ram just got burned, then do we believe that if Mola Ram just got burned, then he would have been like Guy Smiley?
he's like, he's a gentle grandfather figure.
well,
He
then in a
makes
way-
faces. He like sticks his tongue out. He's like, "Hey kids,
I got a head on my head.
It's like he never got a chance.
got your tongue." Yeah,
He never
got all
got
the
a chance
tongues.
to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
I know that's the one of the tragedies of the movie.
No, but I've always assumed that Mola Ram is like the guy, and he started all this and got the thuggy back going, and then like somehow, guy got the Pankot, got the Maharaja of Pankot involved, so he had like some,
But see, I like that too then, because then
backup.
the Maharaj is a tragic figure. Like, he's just this poor kid that got caught up in this international brinksmanship.
Yeah,
And-
in a different movie, he might have been tragic. He might have cared in the least.
I say that he's tragic.
I'm a character in this movie.
Well, did they
Care about
actually
me.
specifically put him in just as like a foil for Short Round?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a foil.
I mean,
for
is that the only reason he's here? Is like that we have a good kid and then we have a bad kid?
I feel like in the writers' minds, there was probably a clearer, more satisfying sort of, it's like,
You don't
that,
say.
Indy gets to the palace and he meets these reasonable people while he's trying to investigate this thing. And oh my gosh, then he finds out that they're all evil. Like, that I can see working and being kind of exciting and stuff, but it just doesn't come off that way at all. So, I think that, a little kid Maharaja, he's evil, oh no. Like, it handled a different way that could have been effective.
Yeah.
Well, okay, think of the bad guys in Raiders of the Lost Ark. You're like,
I'd love to.
Yeah. Toad, Belloc, and Dietrich, And you're like, okay. And you're like, think of the bad guys in the Temple of Doom. You're like, Mola Ram, Shadderlal,
Sometimes.
the Maharaja.
Well, it's a meditation on the sort of transitive shade, like sort of the nature of evil, that sometimes it's hard to identify exactly what is evil.
I guess so.
I don't know, I'm just making stuff up.
No, I like that. That's a
lonely.
great answer, Pete.
I like the Maharaja. I'm sorry. I know you guys don't like him, but I know he's got some character issues, but I kind of dig him in this movie.
Well, why do you like the Maharaja?
That's a very good question. Answer the question.
No,
Well, I don't like the kid.
know.
Like
Yeah.
I hate the kid, but I just think he's kind of an interesting. He was a weird, kind of crazy, interesting character. Like, it's not a character I've seen in another movie.
Mm-hmm.
I like that there is this church and state thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're colluding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that's
And again,
all I
that
got.
makes sense. That makes sense, like, from Mola Ram's point of view, it makes sense for him to, like, want that connection and, like, have some sort of, like, world-facing, like a front, basically, for his thuggy operations or something. But in the movie, it doesn't really matter at all. So it's, like, not interesting or something, or it doesn't,
But
like,
he's-
carry any weight.
He's kind of the counterpoint, though. Like, you see what happens to the kids from Mayapur Village. Like, you see what happens to the poor kids when they're forced to drink the blood of Kali. And then you might think, well, what happened if like that happened to a kid of privilege? Like, what if some rich kid that happened to him? Like, what would be the result? And we see like the different side of the coin.
Yeah.
It's like this is the other side of the lava. oh, hey, hold on, guys. I think I see Dr. Tom Kreck walking by. He might be able to help us with some of these.
Hey, guys.
Oh, hey.
How's it
What
going?
are you doing here?
We're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, hey, you got a second? We've got a couple questions for you. Yeah, we've got some medical questions about some scenes coming up here in Temple of Doom, if you have a minute.
Ah.
Well, Dr. Tom, now that we have you here, I was thinking about ripping out people's organs, and I had a question for you, Dr. Tom. The Vikings famously had that iron eagle where they ripped your lungs out through your back. And, that had a certain symbolism. And then as we saw, towards the end of Braveheart, where there's that disgusting, horrific disembowelment scene. And that was in vogue in the Middle Ages. And I'm just wondering, what do you think is the significance when you rip someone's heart out? What is the significance of specifically ripping their heart out? You had your lungs ripped out, and that means one thing, and bowels ripped out, that means something else. What is it about the heart? What does that say to you?
Wow. That's that I okay, to be quite honest,
He's
the very
a doctor,
first thing
Jerry.
it says, the very first thing it says to me is bull. But as if anybody has seen any YouTube video of heart surgery or whatever, it's a to get the heart out. So I right away.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if it would be that easy. But what they're trying to symbolize is, I think it's the ultimate way that you have somebody by the balls is if you've got their heart. That's
good.
That's the center of everything.
But generally, how long have you found that people tend to live with their heart outside their body? Like a good 3-4 minutes?
Oh, hours, maybe a week, 2. You don't really need it. It really is. It's just that the medical industrial complex is feeding you another line. It actually, you would probably. So I was thinking about this. If it actually was ripped out. So let me ask you guys a question. Any of you guys ever fainted or passed out?
Yeah, I did
when
once,
we say
actually.
vasovagal. Okay. All right. So your heart's still beating. It's just not beating enough. It's not moving enough blood. Okay. And it's not like you're dead or anything, and it's not like it's out of your body. You still have some blood pressure when this is going on, and yet you are completely unconscious. So I think that if you were to rip somebody's heart out, their blood pressure going up to the brain would go to 0 rather quickly. And I think that you would lose consciousness almost immediately.
Do you think that would make the sacrifice more boring if the victim was unconscious during it?
Absolutely. I mean, it really did help that he screamed, right before his whole body lit on fire.
Yeah.
And it was a very nice touch. It was a very nice touch that the wound sealed up. Like, why that even had to happen, I don't know. Actually, I think it would have been more dramatic if they had left the hole open. You know what I mean? And you could see, like, just this empty cavity where the heart used to be with blood dripping out of it. Maybe, like, dripping down onto the fiery pit below and then maybe sizzling or boiling, as it goes, like...
If you're performing a heart ripping out, how do you get through that pesky rib cage?
Yeah, so they have circular saws that do that.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's a real big thing. So they have to saw through the sternum. You could go the way this guy did it, our high priest, and you could kind of break the ribs and dislocate them and push them away and get in there. But in general, no, we saw right through the bone right through the sternum.
And then how do you unsaw?
Ah,
It's time to put the ribcage back into place.
that might be. I don't know. It's like that's not a question we generally think about. Like, yeah.
Well, that sort of terrifies me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
How
we need to do a
many things that
podcast
you
on heart surgery 1 minute at a time.
Oh, that would be scary. That would absolutely be scary. I don't know. I never really thought about putting you back together again. No, we just rip it all apart. Let it go as it may. Actually, the reason they do it, it's harder for the surgeon. Obviously, it's more work, and it sounds grosser and harsher when we just saw the breastbone right down the middle. But then what they can do is, because the breastbone is so tough that even half of it is pretty solid, is then they take wire and they push the things back, the two sides back together, and then they wrap wire around it to kind of hold it together. And yeah, it holds. Like, people can actually get up and move around and, and cough and all that stuff.
Let's see, I mean, the joy of performing human sacrifice is you don't have to worry about all that.
Hey, that's exactly. Why I was not really prepared. I was not really prepared for this type of question. How do you undo it all? I don't think that really comes into it.
Well,
So this is a one-way street, you're saying?
Yeah,
Yes,
pretty much.
yes.
Pretty much.
Well, can the heart beat like it does here in the movie? Does it? If you were to remove the heart, would it beat like that in that fashion outside of the body? And if it does that qualify an external cardiac arrest? Should it stop?
Yeah. So I believe it can. We don't usually do it, in this particular kind of situation, but yeah, so the rate at which your heart beats is determined by nerves from the brain, from the base of the brain. And you got one set of nerves that are spitting out little chemicals that make it go faster, and then there's another set of nerves that make it go slower. But if none of those nerves were active, it would probably beat about 40 times a minute. Maybe a little, maybe 50 times a minute. It would still beat, it just wouldn't be under any control. But in general, somebody young and healthy like that sacrifice guy, yeah, it would probably beat about 40 beats a minute, which is a bit slower than what they were showing you, in this. I really do think that in the movie, in general, they kind of oversold it,
Oh, you're kidding.
Slightly.
Yeah.
We get into, there's a whole element of this whole thing about drinking the blood of Kali, and it makes you mental, and it turns you into a zombie and stuff. Is there anything to the art or practice of drinking blood? That, like, what would you have to do to blood? Or is it just gross enough as it is that it would actually make you wacky like that? Or would you, like, what? Yeah. Like, what could they do to blood besides, assuming it's not, magical or, evilly blessed or something? What's going on with all this blood drinking, and what would that actually do to you?
It would do absolutely nothing. But if they,
Okay.
because we never saw him. I think this is adulterated blood, to tell you the truth. Like, I think that, our priest is pulling a fast one on everybody else, and he's putting drugs in that, like a little scopolamine or something to, make somebody more susceptible. Basically, I think he roofied him. Yeah, that's it. There you go.
Well, we've also had a theory. There's a character in this movie that some people might find slightly annoying, and that's Willie Scott. Is it possible that part of the reason she's annoying is that she's suffering the effects of severe hunger? Like, if you were suffering hunger over a period of several days, would you become annoying?
I think aggressive, maybe, and angry, yes, but wimpy and wishy and you know, Indy, you know, oh, good God. Oh my God. No, I don't think you can blame it on that. No.
So you're saying
No,
there's an external factor, a medical factor in play.
If you, oh yeah, and not writing and directing and acting, yeah. Sure.
When you earlier, I just had a point. When you talking about, say the Khalid, the blood of Kali is real blood. If you drink real blood, then it goes into your stomach and your body absorbs it, like your stomach lining absorbs the blood into its bloodstream. Does that confuse your own blood?
You have double blood.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you have your blood and then you have someone else's blood.
That's a very good, yes, absolutely not. So that's why, like, you could drink somebody's blood, but you can't necessarily have that blood infused into you. Because the digestive system breaks things down into very basic components. So you're not absorbing a red blood cell. You're not even absorbing like an antibody protein or anything like that. Everything is broken down into really small components. And then it's just food. You know, it's just like eating what happens to the blood that's in the meat, you know, that you eat.
So it'd be fair to say that all the children and the people under the spell and in Pankot Palace, in the mines in the Temple of Doom, they probably are iron sufficient.
Exactly. In fact, the opposite of insufficient is called hemochromatosis. So, yes, they now now chronically. So if you eat too much iron and or you get too many blood transfusions, you can get hemochromatosis, which mainly affects the liver and the brain. And it can make you go crazy because the iron deposits in the brain, but mainly because the iron deposits in the liver, destroying the liver, giving you cirrhosis, which then can make you crazy.
Wow, now we're getting somewhere.
Interesting.
That's amazing.
There you go.
You know, we're talking about the Pankot Palace diet with the snakes and there's chilled monkey brains and, well, they're eels. And I'm just wondering, I mean, would that dinner lead to high cholesterol and increased strokes?
I gotta say, I think it's balanced. Really, you got a lot of protein, okay, with the beetles and the eels, right? I mean, there's not a lot of fat there. The brains are fatty, but you're allowed a treat every once in a while, and I think that I think probably better than McDonald's. And possibly less gross, less gross than McDonald's.
I was gonna say, I mean. Now, we also were talking about. Well, I'll just get right to it. Is it possible to flay someone and have the skin just come off in one piece?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. No, absolutely not. It's a great question. There's so much connective tissue that connects in all these different places. The deeper tissues and what's called the fascia, which is kind of like a tough bag, or connections between muscles and bone and skin and things like that. So it's actually difficult to yank the skin off.
Okay, well, there's our answer for the flapestries.
Now, I was telling Pete the other day about the going back to the blood question. If they were to infuse the blood into somebody, there are animal studies out there now that show that aging can be reversed if you hook up a young mouse or rat with an old mouse or rat, and you have them share a circulatory system, so their blood is intermixed. I don't think the younger animal gets much bad going on, but the older animal actually seems to get a lot younger.
So maybe all these kids in the mines are actually like 40 years old.
Wow.
But and then I'm not quite sure that there's a medical explanation for why when the guy bursts into flames, his heart also at the same time bursts into flames. I'm not quite sure.
Oh,
about that.
I think that's called sympathetic inflammation.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Feedback.
Well, thanks for stopping by on your way to the bus or wherever you were walking.
Yeah, bus. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. This just in from Professor
Hey.
Christy Porter. Can only men participate in the sacrificial voyeurism?
Well, I have a note about that next minute.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right. Very good.
Professor Porter will just have to wait.
Yes.
Can you telegraph her back, Jer? Do you have
Yes,
the
yes.
Morse code thing? Okay. Thanks. Well, do we have anything else for this one, for 62?
No, I think I'm good.
No?
The big cage coming down. We'll see what happens for that
Yeah.
next time. Well, Jerry, if you wanted to hear from any of our listeners, which I know you do, what would you recommend to them do?
Oh, I absolutely want to hear from the listeners. I would suggest, and I'd say implore, beseech them to call the Indiana Jones hotline or hatline, depending on which episode this is, which is 724-LOST-ARK. And yes, we listen to them, and we have a whole bunch of them, and there's all sorts of great questions, and we're going to be answering them. So 724 Lost Ark, leave a question or a comment. Does the sacrifice guy know what's in store for him? What do you think about shrunken heads? Please do.
Please do.
Please do.
And please come back tomorrow for minute, 63 of Temple of Doom here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
I say, Jones.
Jones?
Jones? That's the creepiest one.
At least we didn't harmonize or anything. That would have been creepy.